Hey, it's me, your boyfriend slash girlfriend slash day friend's favorite content creator. I got a haircut. I don't know if you guys can see that shit. Got the lineup. Sick. Anyways, uh, you guys do know that like Final Fantasy is political, right? Like it's a political game. I'm seeing people, uh, really grifters, talking about how the game isn't political and shouldn't be political to the point where they are just outright admitting that they've never played a Final Fantasy game. I have played a Final Fantasy game. I've played several Final Fantasy games. So I just wanted to do a real quick video going over the fact that, yeah, Final Fantasy is explicitly a political game. Now, most people, when you think of politics, you might think of like voting, right? Like I'm Republican, I'm Democrat, or whatever party you have in your country. But that is just one facet of being political. Essentially, everything's political. I know you people thought now they're talking about everything's woke and woke and woke. No, not everything is woke, but everything is political because it comes from people, which makes it inherently political. When you decide, for example, like you're at a job and people decide, who gets promoted and who doesn't, we call that playing politics. You're playing internal politics, you're playing human politics, you're playing politics. You are using your personal moral belief systems, your code of conduct, so to speak, and are applying that in the real world through systems, which is what politics are. You're just essentially applying your personal beliefs through a system, through many different systems, to get an outcome that more or less aligns with your beliefs. Final Fantasy likes to do that with swords. They talk about, it's fantasy. You talk about magic and all this other shit. But I'll focus on really just two games, but really just one of them. Final Fantasy VII, because that seems to be the game that people are trying to say is not political. In Final Fantasy VII, you literally start the game off, I would say, as onboarding a train, going to a reactor and blowing it up. Now, on the surface, that seems bad. You're blowing shit up. But when you look at the story, the themes of it, the context of it, you are a mercenary working with the group Avalanche, who themselves are an essentially eco-terrorists who are trying to save the planet by destroying a Mako generator, which is controlled by Shinra. Mako is the allegory here. Mako is oil, right? It is their oil. It is their energy system that they literally take from the planet and used for a variety of reasons. That in itself is political. You have this huge corporation that is literally killing the planet. If you don't think there are some real life allusions they're making, I don't think you should be critiquing video games. It is very apparent that they are talking about climate change and the effect of that. And more importantly, we're talking about capitalism. That is the overarching theme in Final Fantasy VII. I know people want to say it's just environmentalism, but yes, but environmentalism exists because of capitalism. Because you have these corporations that will do whatever it takes in order to make a profit. Like, it's not really subtle in Final Fantasy VII. It is about capitalism. We could just talk about Shinra alone, and that should really hammer home the point. Shinra is the living embodiment of capitalism. Like I said earlier, Shinra is an electric company. They're a power company, okay? They're a power company, and yet they have their own private military. They have rocket ships. They have weapons that no one else has. They have power unbecoming of God, to the point where they are the de facto power of not only Midgar, but essentially the planet. There is no escape from Shinra. You can leave Midgar. You go to, Nibelheim. Oh, there's a Mako reactor. Oh, you go to Korra. Oh, Korra had a reactor. Oh, you could literally go to a waterfall hidden away, and you're going to find Shinra's influence because you're going to see where they put Lucretia's body. It is all encompassing. There is no escape. Hell, even Midgar itself is built as this huge, imposing, like, heartless environment where the Shinra literally lives on the upper crust. That's an example people say of the elite, the upper crust. They live on the literal upper crust of the giant plate, and they are dominating the skyline like capitalism, an ever-present looming threat that seeks to consume everything. Shinra not only has a private military, they have their own wet works division, the Turks, the people who, on Shinra's orders, collapsed a part of I believe it's the Section 7 pillar and killed untold numbers of people just to stop Avalanche, who were again blowing up reactors to stop them from, destroying the planet. Now, in Final Fantasy Remake, they do go a little more in depth with that, of the outcome of the explosions, because there are people who live up in the upper crust. There's people who work at Shinra who aren't these evil, maniacal people, to show the real outcomes of their decisions. Jesse's mom lives up there, right? Like, you go to her house and do all this stuff there too. There are people who have real lives, who go to Shinra, go day in, day out, who will also get caught up in your actions. That is also political. Like, the game makes you question, like, are you doing the right thing? Shinra, having its own private army, decided to take Mako energy that becomes crystallized, that we use as materia, and infuse that with people. The soldier program, human experimentation, done by an electric company, because they have the power. They're essentially the de facto government. They can do whatever they want, and you are responsible for taking them out. Also, one of you being a product of said human experimentation. Like, it's I don't know how much clearer you can make it. Like, everything they do is their fault. You go to visit Sid in, like, Rocket Town. They promised to build this rocket and all this other stuff. Didn't go work. It didn't work out, and they just said, fuck it. Left that town to die. Like, they're awful. But again, they represent capitalism. That is a real world thing. It is all consuming. It doesn't care who it hurts. It doesn't matter if you are working with them or against them. They'll consume you all the same. Like, that's literally it. We got to the point where the planet itself tried to protect itself by releasing the weapons. And you know what happened? Shinra used the Junin cannon to kill it. And then they moved said cannon to Midgar. They could use Mako energy, just created basically a nuke with, like, almost infinite range. Like, and this is an energy company. It is obviously a critique of capitalism. But if you want to talk about other Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy VIII, you had child soldiers. Final Fantasy X, the threat of organized religion taking over, essentially creating a cult where if you not follow that religion, you were considered outcast, like the Al-Bhed, and you were considered evil. They blame you for the world's evils. And you see what happens there. Like, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So to sit here and be like, oh, Final Fantasy is not political is insane. And I know what these idiots mean when they say not political. They mean that they're not forcing diversity on you. You don't have to have people who are trans or whatever, or this and that and that. And to that I say, you're an idiot. You're an idiot if that is your viewpoint of just, well, see, it's not political because there aren't trans people there. So it can list everything else. You could talk about climate change. You could talk about immigration. You talk about the dangers of organized religion, overly charismatic leaders. You could talk about how imperialism bad. You could talk about how slavery bad, like the most recent Final Fantasy 16. You could talk about all of that. But the minute there's a character who is queer, you lose your mind. Because that's what one genius is talking about, how it's not political because, they didn't have modern day politics. Final Fantasy 7 came out in like 1996, 1997. Talking about climate change. We're still talking about climate change in 2024. I'd say it's pretty modern. Corporations having unchecked power, having them become de facto government unto themselves. I'd say it's still applicable to today's age, because these are things about humanity. And don't just take it from me, some rambling guy. Take it from the creator of Final Fantasy 7, who himself, that's not just 7, Final Fantasy in general, who himself stated that, yeah, the core of Final Fantasy is having it based off of, loosely, real life events. By loosely, he means making allegories. Because the genius guy said that it's not political because Mako isn't real. Mako's not real, therefore, nothing's political in the game. Even though, like I mentioned earlier, Mako is an allegory for oil. Because it's not directly saying Shinra takes oil and is using oil to, destroy the planet and doesn't care because they're making a profit. It's not political. Barrett in the remake talking about how, your corporate masters are mad because they're not profiting or whatever. not political because what he didn't talk about these Enron and oil. Like, these people shouldn't be taken seriously, you guys. If they are not able to understand that games being political is part and parcel to storytelling, there simply is no story without politics. I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't tell you. Even Mario has politics, even with their baseline. Having a kingdom makes it inherently political. Like, these are just storytelling. And humans tell stories until, AI takes over. Humans tell stories. Humans have lived experiences. Those lived experiences often shape what stories they want to tell. That is political because they're making a choice to tell a specific story a specific way. That is a political thing too. Final Fantasy, the series that was about people from Warriors of Light fighting against darkness with crystals, with magic and swords and all that stuff, has always at its heart been political. They've been talking about fighting oppression. Like, I don't think I can list a single mainline Final Fantasy series or game that does not follow that doesn't have politics in it. Most of these things take place on like 3 planets, right? And they all talk about imperialism or capitalism or some form of oppression. That is political. But because they don't have, again, a trans person or a queer person that you're aware of, it's not political. That's stupid. Like, that's dumb. You're a dumb, stupid person if you think that.